Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be learning everything you need to know about Vault and Vault Prime in Warframe. Hey guys, welcome to the 4th ever episode of the Everything You Need to Know About series. In today's guide, we're going to be taking a look at Vault and Vault Prime, or as many people like to call him, the Sonic the Hedgehog of Warframe. That's probably because of his speed ability. Vault is one of the starter frames for the game. He's the one that I would recommend to newer players, not because he's necessarily better than Excalibur or Mag, but because he's the most expensive out of the free to craft, and because you can get Excalibur and Mag pretty early on in the star chart. Before we jump into the nitty gritty of all of Vault's stats and abilities, it's worth noting that everything that I say in this video is subject to change. In the description below, there is a link to the Warframe wiki and possibly links to update videos that I've made to update my channel's information on this frame. If you'd like, there's also links to my social media and a link to my 1000 Platinum monthly giveaway. All you have to do to enter that is click the link in the description below, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch, and then follow me and the @PlayWarframe account on Twitter, and there you go, you have 4 entries into a 1000 Platinum giveaway. Shameless self-promotion aside, let's jump into the stats for Vault and Vault Prime. At max rank, Vault has 300 health, 450 shields, 15 armor, 150 energy, a 1.0 sprint speed, a dash and a V polarity in his modding section, and a V in his aura. Vault Prime, on the other hand, has 300 health, 450 shields, 100 armor, which is a pretty big difference between the two, 300 energy, which is another really big difference between the two, a 1.0 sprint speed, a dash, and 2 V polarities in his modding section, and then finally a V in his aura slot. You can acquire regular Vault from your clan's dojo from the Tenno Lab once the research for it has been completed. The research requirements are on screen now on the left hand side if you're interested in taking a look at those if you're thinking about starting your own clan. But to craft Vault, you're going to need 105,000 credits. This is including the Vault blueprint cost, but not including the credits that it's going to cost you to buy the neuroptic systems and chassis blueprints from your clan's Tenno Lab. 1000 ferrite, 800 rubido, 500 salvage, 220 plastids, 150 alloy plates, 150 polymer bundles, 2 morphics, a single control module, a single neural sensor, and finally a single Oracle cell. Vault Prime was put away into the Prime Vault on the 22nd of February 2017, which means the only way to obtain his blueprints or relics is by purchasing them from other players. However, it is likely that DE will remove Vault Prime from the Prime Vault for a future unvaulting event in 2018, which means you're going to be able to farm his relics again. To craft Vault Prime, you're going to need 70,000 credits, 1,250 circuits, 1,150 alloy plates, 1,000 polymer bundles, 1,000 salvage, 400 rubido, 3 control modules, 3 neural sensors, 2 neurodes, and 2 Oracle cells. Let's jump into Vault's abilities after we talk about his passive. His passive is known as Static Discharge. This is a really good passive for newer players as it effectively gives the player more electric damage simply for moving around. What this passive will do is, as the player is walking, running, or sliding, they will store static or electric damage that will be displayed to the left of their health and shields and will cap out at 1000. Based off the amount of static or electric damage you've stored, this amount of damage will be added to your next shot or attack. So if you're a new player and you choose Vault, use this ability to one-shot the early bosses by running around, storing up 1000 damage, and then shooting or whacking the boss. Moving on to Vault's abilities, his first ability is known as Shock. This ability will allow Vault to shoot an arc of lightning out of his hand that will chain to all enemies within 15 meters from the point of contact. The arc can chain a maximum of 5 times and will inflict 200 electric damage with 100% status chance. The damage of this ability is affected by power strength mods, where the link range is affected by ability range mods. Shock has an augment for it known as Shock Trooper. This augment and all of Vault's other augments can be acquired from the Red Veil Syndicate at the rank of Exalted, or the Arbiters of Hexus Syndicate at the rank of Maxim for 25,000 Syndicate standing. Shock Trooper allows the player to use Shock to grant his allies with 100% extra electricity damage to their attacks for 40 seconds. The amount of extra damage you can give your allies is affected by power strength mods, and the duration of the buff is affected by power duration mods. This augment is nice to use while hunting Eidolons, as it is effectively just giving the players in your team more damage, although it's not a must-have. Vault's second ability is known as Speed. This ability will increase the reload speed, movement speed, and melee attack speed of Vault and any allies within 25 meters of him. The reload speed buff that the players receive caps out at 17% without mods, and the melee and movement speed buff caps out at 50% without mods. The effect will last up to 10 seconds, again without mods. The speed buff and reload speed buff is affected by power strength mods, and then how long the buff lasts for is affected by power duration mods, and finally, the effective range of the ability, meaning how close your allies have to be to you to receive the buffs, is affected by power range mods. Speed has an augment for it known as Shocking Speed. This augment basically adds electric damage to your Warframe while your speed ability is active, meaning any enemy that you come into contact with will have 175 electric damage dealt to them. The amount of damage that this ability deals is affected by power strength mods, where the range of the damage is not affected by ability range mods, so it's basically just any enemy that you come into contact with. Volt's third ability is known as Electric Shield. This ability will allow Volt to place an electric shield in front of him that he can shoot through, adding 50% more electricity damage to his attacks, 200% extra crit damage to his crits, and it's going to absorb all incoming fire. The damage bonuses of this ability are not affected by power strength mods, and the range of the shield is not affected by power range mods. However, if you want to get more damage out of your shields, you can stack your shields up to 5 times to get more electric damage. So for example, if you place 3 shields down instead of just 1, you're going to get 150% extra electricity damage instead of the base 50%. It's important to note that the same method does not work for your crit damage. It stays at 200% regardless of the amount of shields that you have down. Otherwise, it would be insanely OP. You can only place down 5 shields at a time, meaning that your electric damage buff effectively caps out at 250%. Duration and efficiency mods are what you should be modding for if you want to have a build around Electric Shield. Electric Shield has an augment for it known as Transistor Shield that's going to allow your teammates to pick up your shields. All damage that the shields absorb will add onto your passive Static Discharge. Volt's final ability is known as Discharge. When you cast Discharge, Volt will jump into the air and let out a wave of electricity. Any enemy that is caught in this wave of electricity will be stunned and will emit arcs of electricity like Tesla coils, shocking any other hostile that comes within 8 meters of them. Any enemies that are Tesla coil will remain undamaged by Discharge for up to 4.5 seconds, and then will begin to take 600 electricity damage per tick for the remaining duration of the ability. The electricity damage will tick twice per second. Discharge is affected by power strength mods to increase the damage of the initial cast and the damage taken by Tesla coiled enemies, power range to increase the initial affected area of discharge, and power duration to determine how long the enemy stays stunned for once affected. Casting shock on a Tesla coiled enemy will result in an overcharge, creating an AoE burst emitted from the target. You won't be able to recast discharge within the first 4 seconds from the last cast. This is to stop players from keeping enemies in an infinite stun loop. Recasting the ability on already affected enemies will not refresh the duration on your initial cast. Discharge has an augment for it known as Capacitance that converts 3% of the damage dealt with Discharge into shields for Volt and nearby allies. The amount of bonus shields you can have is affected by power strength, and this ability can create overshields. Volt will gain the shield back regardless of where he is, but any allies must be within the casting range to get the overshield buff from this augment. I'm going to show you guys 3 builds for Volt, but we're going to jump to some live footage for me to explain them all, as there is a lot of build diversity on pretty much all of his builds. Okay, so our Volt builds. I'm going to be showing you guys 3 builds. Config A is my Volt Speed build. Config B is my Eidolon Hunter build, so this one is based around Electric Shield. And then Config C is my Discharge build, which is basically a crowd control build that you would use in things like the Law of Retribution, which has unfortunately been removed. So you're just going to use this in like high-level defense missions or whatever. There's just CC enemies and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and jump in to all the different builds and basically things that we can swap out with them. So with the speed build, you want to get a nice balance between power duration and also power strength. So I've did something that I used to do like a very, very long time ago. Something that you don't really see that much nowadays is using a mod which isn't completely ranked up. So in this case, I'm using a free from the top blind reg, so that just means it's 3 ranks from the top. It's not fully maxed out. And the reason I don't fully max this out is because I don't want to lose all that ability efficiency, because I want to be able to cast speed whenever I need it, right? We're going to have a pretty hefty duration on our speed ability with this build anyway, but besides that, you know, we have how much? 28 energy to cast, which is already bad enough, so we don't want to like further you know, how much energy we need to spend on every single cast of speed. However, we do last for 25.45 seconds, which is awesome, with a 2.26 multiplier, and then we have a reload speed buff of 1.44, which is pretty cool. Downside of this build is that you're not able to share that buff with your teammates unless you're basically hugging them. So that's because we have Nara Minded on, which minuses our ability range. So let's get into it. Let's break it down so it's easy to understand. We have Constitution on here for ability duration, same with Nara Minded and our Prime Continuity. And then we move on to our Power Strength mods. So we have Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, and Augur Secrets. Streamline for ability efficiency. And then the rest is basically, you know, up to you. So Ice Spring, you can use Ice Spring for more momentum and air, or you can use Vitality so you have more health. basically anything in the D polarity section, you can go ahead and throw on here. Apart from overextend it, because that's going to give you a negative effect to your power strength, which is going to make your speed buff a lot slower, right? So you don't want to be using overextend it, but pretty much anything else is definitely viable on here. So for example, maybe if you're playing Volt Prime, you might want to use Steel Fiber over Vitality if you're only going to be using them in lower level missions and stuff like that. So it's really down to you. Exilus slot, I'm using the Rush mod. This is actually very important because it's going to be a multiplier of your base sprint speed, and this mod is increasing your base sprint speed, right? So by using this mod, you're basically doubling a higher number with your speed ability, so it makes sense to have more base sprint speed, which also gives you the opportunity to use a different aura mod, such as Sprint Boost, right? Because this is going to give you even more base sprint speed. So the effect of your speed ability is going to be greater whenever it comes to your movement speed, right? Obviously, that isn't going to affect your melee speed or your reload speed, but it's still nice to have, right? Because this build is more centered around, running really fast and getting a mission done super quick, okay? So, just to give you guys an example of how quick I actually am with this build, so let's go ahead and hit it. So this is how fast we are just running, obviously. But then whenever you throw sliding and bullet jumping into the mix, because we have Ice Spring on this build, I'm jumping really far, so my bullet jumps have more momentum and stuff like that. So, you're just covering more distance with every single bullet jump, and because you have your speed ability, then basically everything you do is faster, okay? So, there's a lot of build diversity there, and you can basically do whatever you want. Here's the opportunity to screenshot now. And yeah, you don't necessarily have to run Augur Secrets either if you don't want to have, we could go ahead and remove this, and we could throw on, let's say, Augur Message for more duration, and we'd still have, hopefully, we still have over the 2 multipliers. So yeah, we still have a 2 times speed boost, which is still pretty good, So there's a lot of different things you can do, but if you want the absolute most speed boost, this is the build that I would run, because this is like the balance between efficient and lasting long, and obviously a big buff. So this is just a build that makes the most sense to me, okay? So moving on to config B, this is my Eidolon Hunter build. So this one, there's a little bit of build diversity here, which we'll talk about in a bit. But this one is focused around having Electric Shield last for a long time, and also making it so it's spammable, right? So we have Constitution, Narrow-Minded, and Prime Continuity on here for our ability duration. Then we have Streamline and Fleeting, so we get our maximum efficiency cap, so that's 175%, as you can see over here, because if you were to go over that 175%, just going to show you guys real quick, if you were to throw on a max Fleeting Expertise, which I can't actually right now, okay, so if I either move Shock Trooper and move on a max Fleeting Expertise, we don't go over 175%, so 175% ability efficiency is your cap. So you don't want to be going over that. So let's just go ahead and throw Shock Trooper back on. There we go. So yeah, that gives you your efficiency cap. So it costs as little as possible to cast your shields. And remember, we want to be throwing down 5 shields at a time to get that electric damage bonus, which is pretty nice. And then on top of that, I also went ahead and threw on Shock Trooper, because we want to get as much damage as possible from our electric shield, and also just, be a buffer in general. So I have Shock Trooper on here, so if you cast this on your friendlies, you're going to get a 115% electric damage bonus for 92 seconds, I believe, okay? Those numbers might be wrong, because that's just off the top of my head, but because you have Power Drift on here, it increases the ability strength to 115%, so that's the buff that you get from Shock Trooper whenever you cast it on an ally. Prime Flow for energy, Vitality for health, and then that is basically the build, okay? So you're able to spam your shields. So if we were to go ahead and spawn in a Heavy Gunner, let's get him. And then we go, let's spawn in 20 for shits and giggles. Go settings, go here, 150. Let's pause them, because why not? Simulate this. Now we can't cast the buff on ourselves, but if I had a teammate with me, I would be able to cast it on him. But because I'm just giving you this demonstration solo, what you want to do is spam 3 of your shields, or 5 of your shields, sorry, and these last for 57 seconds each, and then you shoot through them, and then you see that you deal some massive crit numbers, okay? So this is basically what it's all about, and then if you had a buddy with you, you just look at him, you press 1, and then you get that 115% extra electricity damage for about 92 seconds, and then that is basically it. You can pick up your shields and stuff like that if you really want to, but as I said, the more you move, the more that's going to drain your energy, right? So it's kind of down to you if you want to pick up your shield. So you kind of just want to have those 5 shields down at any given time. And, you know, if you're playing against Eidolons, you just want to have a shield down so you can shoot through it with your amp to take down the Eidolon shield faster. And then maybe whenever you're destroying the limbs, that 200% extra crit damage is pretty boss if you have a Chroma in your team. So it's definitely worth using. Bolt is, in my opinion, at least a must-have for whenever you're killing Eidolons. So this is the build that I would use for it. Moving on to Config C, which is my discharge build. This one is basically just centered around keeping enemies stunned because I don't necessarily look at discharge as a damage dealing ability, although it is nice. We have overextended stretch and cunning drift for as much range as possible. Constitution and prime continuity for as much duration without negatively affecting our range. Streamline for our what's it called? Our efficiency. Intensify, this mod you can replace with Transient Fortitude if you want more damage, or you could maybe even replace it with the Capacitance Augment so you can get over shields, okay? So that's really down to you what you want to run. Vitality here for your health, obviously. Prime Flow for your energy sustain. And then, obviously, with all of these builds, your aura, it kind of depends. So with this, you want to be running free cruiser projections in your Eidolon Hunter build, and then you don't want to have a 4th because that way you're removing all the armor, and you don't want that to happen because there's a thing you can do with radiation damage, which will give you more damage in the long run if you're only running free cruiser projections, so it makes sense to only run free. So you might want to swap this off for something like Energy Siphon. Unless you have like an EV Trin. You should have a Blessing Trin who should be able to restore your energies just a little bit, but that's besides the point. And yeah, so your aura, it just kind of depends. So I'll give you guys a demonstration of this discharge build as well. We kill all the enemies, and then we jump over here. We press 4, like so. And you can see that we don't deal a lot of damage, but the enemies are stunned, okay? And they'll be stunned for a decent amount of time, and then once it runs out, you can just go ahead and recast like so, and then they're stunned again. So you can, if you're timing it right, keep them in an infinite stun loop, but they try to avoid it by allowing you to recast it a little bit early. So if you just catch them at the right time, then it's fine. But like I said, you can replace Intensify for like something like Transient Fortitude or Capacitance. It's really down to you. You could even throw on a mobility mod if you really want to, but Transient Fortitude for more damage, you get less duration on the stun. So it's really down to you what you want to do. Here's Capacitance in effect if you just want to get that overshields back and you don't really want to focus on killing too much. So let's go ahead and cast it. And you'll see that affects every single enemy in here. So yeah, it's pretty dope. Pretty insane. And we have our, we're getting our max overshield, which caps out at 1,650, and that's without redirection. I don't recommend modding for redirection ever because it doesn't, you know, armor doesn't scale with shields, so there's no real point. It's better off using vitality. But if you're only playing against low-level stuff, then, I mean, sure, why not? If you really, really want to use redirection just to get a high shield capacity, then you can definitely go for it. Let's see if I have redirection on, just to test it out and show you guys how much shields you can get with this. So we go ahead and cast it again. You'll see that we get far more shields with the redirection on, so it's going to go over that 1,650, or we're going to cap out at 2,310. So there you go. But now we only have 300 health, so if we get hit by a slash proc or a toxin proc, we're pretty much dead. So shields are kind of useless in Warframe. It's just kind of down to you what you want to use, okay? So there we go. So you can replace this mod slot with pretty much anything. It's down to you. Augur Message might be nice. If we go ahead and throw that on, you get more duration on the stun as well. So we'll see how long that lasts. Press 4. And here we go. Okay, so basically the same amount of duration. That's because I think they changed it so that, like, if the enemies are super far away, they are stunned for a lesser amount of time, just based off how far away they are. But still, you're able to recast it, you're able to keep enemies in an infinite stun loop. It's a great ability, and that's been all my builds. So I'm going to jump back to the scripted version of me now where I actually get stuff right and I don't go off in tangents. So see you guys back in the scripted stuff. And that is everything you need to know about Vault. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe for more Warframe content, check out my social media links in the description, as well as my link to my monthly giveaway and other follow-up videos that I might have made. I'm sorry that this video got posted a day later than it should have. It's just I'm kind of behind a little bit, but fear not, I have all the other videos scripted and ready to go, so never missing another upload time of 6 p.m. GMT. So in saying that, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. GMT for everything you need to know about Mesa in Warframe. See you guys then.